Ukraine's ambassador lashes out at Elon Musk's peace proposal, telling him to fuck off and saying no Ukrainian will buy his Tesla crap. Ukraine-Russia peace. Redo elections of annexed regions under UN supervision. Russia leaves if that is the will of the people. Crimea, formerly part of Russia, as it's been since 1783 until Khrushchev's mistake. Water supply to Crimea assured. Ukraine remains neutral. Is this actually an Elon Musk tweet? Because this is shocking coming from Elon Musk. Surprising in what way? First of all, this is like anti-Ukraine. Let's be real. Okay, this is just like straight up anti-Ukraine. This is as anti-Ukraine as you can get while still not saying like, you know, Russia deserves the entirety of Ukraine. There are parts of it that make sense and parts of it that don't make sense. Good stuff. Redoing elections of annexed regions under UN supervision, for example. That part doesn't make sense. The reality is that like the entire LPR and DPR region once might have had legitimate interest in, you know, being adjacent or being autonomous. But at this stage, it's over. There is no real consequential election that you could ever hold over there, considering the relocation that has already been made permanent and also all the deaths that have occurred. So I don't even know exactly how you could fix that because there's war happening there and Russia's elections in that region, especially after the resettlement, is going to be, again, it's going to be like 99% Russia because, you know, that's not going to work. Originally, though, it was most likely, it was way more complicated than, and way different than the results are now. Do you not trust the opinion of the 99.7 people in DPR? There are differences here. There are differences here with like Crimea, for example. But the number one problem there is like the demographic change, or rather the displacement of people who were in any way, shape, or form remotely pro-Ukraine makes that impossible to have like a real election in. There's a reason why there's a difference between Crimea, and I say this all the time. This is like a very controversial thing that I say personally, which I'm surprised Elon Musk said as well, because the moment that you talk about Crimea on such terms, immediately people are like, oh, fuck you. You just want, you know, you want the worst for Ukrainians. You hate Ukraine. You want Russia to fucking kill every Ukrainian or whatever. It's understandable. People get very passionate about said take, about that specific opinion, especially considering that Russia is doing incredibly awful shit in Ukraine. All right, Ukraine takes key hub from Putin's forces. It's time to once again talk about Pooty Poo. It also ties back to Elon Musk and how angry people are at Elon Musk. Let's take a look at Pooty Poo.
Ukrainian forces have taken back control of a key city claimed by Russia, and Putin is raising new nuclear threats in the face of military setbacks and new opposition inside Russia.
Yeah, good morning, George. This is the road to Liman, where the Ukrainians have just pulled off another stunning victory. Remember, this is one of the regions declared part of Russia by Vladimir Putin on Friday, and yet one day later, he was already losing territory as his war plans start to look in serious trouble. When Ukrainian troops swept through here in their counter-offensive, it unleashed a chain of events. Putin mobilizing troops, annexing part of Ukraine, even threatening to use nuclear weapons. What lies ahead is a more difficult and more dangerous period in this war.
Consent manufacturing happened in the beginning stages of this fucking war, okay? On both sides. Russia tried to act like it wasn't doing a war. Russia tried to act like Vladimir Putin tried to act like he wasn't trying to overtake the entirety of Ukraine all the way to Kyiv, and that this was just a tactical retreat when he wanted to reinforce the eastern flank and the eastern front. That consent manufacturing part already happened. It occurred. The Western state media apparatus, or with the state apparatus, alongside the state apparatus, Western media was basically saying, you know, Ukraine is owning, Ukraine is owning, Ukraine is owning, Ukraine is owning, when Ukraine was not owning. Russia has always held that it does want to take Kyiv. It's the only West that says they want all of Ukraine, that it does not want to take Kyiv. Doesn't matter. They were bombing Western fronts. They were bombing Western locations. Ukraine wasn't doing great. Obviously, you can't really do great when you're getting fucking invaded, you know, no matter what happens. And now Ukraine actually is performing very well as a consequence of the HIMARS, as a consequence of all the weapons that they're getting, small arms and also large arms, weapon systems that they're getting from the West. But if you think that this is at this stage consent manufacturing, I don't know what to tell you. It's not. I mean, Ukrainian forces are using everything they can in their fucking power, in their arsenal, to take back some of the territories that they had to retreat from Russian bombing campaigns. Not only is shit not going so well for Russia, if you want further proof that things are not going well for Russia, I mean, you have the forced conscriptions that are happening. That's number one. You don't do that when you're winning. And number two, you have Putin talking about nuclear warfare again. the idea of like, if you don't let me win, I'm going to fucking do nukes. I'm going to do the nukes. Now things are going not great at all and really poorly. Part of the one of the things that Putin has done is in the LPR, DPR regions, institute these elections. The elections results are going to be overwhelmingly in support of Russia. That's the reason why they were held to begin with. But part of that is because of the mass amount of displacement that already occurred. You bomb the shit out of the areas. You literally have ongoing conflict in the region. Of course, they're now just exclusive. The people left behind are your people. That doesn't mean that it's adequate. That doesn't mean it's right. Jeffrey Sachs on Nord Stream's destruction.
Destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline, which I would bet was a U.S. action, perhaps U.S. and Poland. This is
Jeff, we got to stop there. That's quite a statement as well. Why do you feel that was a U.S. action?
Come on, bro.
What evidence do you have of that?
Well, first of all, there's direct radar evidence that U.S. Helicopters, military helicopters that are normally based in Gdansk, were circling over this area. We also had the threats from the United States earlier in this year that one way or another we are going to end Nord Stream.
That's so crazy, man. I can't believe it. There's no way it was America or America-aligned units. I mean, that'd be crazy. What, U.S. and Poland? That's a vast overestimation of Polish abilities? Yeah, no shit, brother. But that doesn't matter. Everything in that region that is done against Russia is being done by pro-America and America-trained, American weapons, and are people who are trained by Americans. Like, it's not like the Polish submarine force is responsible single-handedly for it. They didn't get a couple Polish motherfuckers riding on, sea lions to go and throw stones at the fucking pipeline, brother. For what? I'm on a jet ski. What's your stance on the nuclear stuff? I mean, I think nuclear saber rattling is fucking terrifying. I don't know what Putin's going to do. Only Putin knows what Putin's going to do. Pooty poo. Anyway, let's hear what the United States has to say about it, though.
The U.S. is developing contingency plans for possible Russian escalation in its war in Ukraine, including potential use of tactical nuclear weapons. Also, the possibility of what one source described as a nuclear display. That would be something short of a nuclear strike, including the possibility of a military strike on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. So this shows how seriously the U.S. is taking these Russian nuclear threats. They've been developing contingency plans for some time. I wonder, can you describe what such contingency plans might involve?
It's like, bro, come on. What kind of defenses do we have? Come on, dude. Just give us the nuclear defenses.
My personal view is I think we ought to be deliberately vague on what we are prepared to do. Anytime you draw a red line, that commits you to a certain course of action. Look, I think it's fairly simple to lay down the options. It could be the soft side of it, which is doubling down on sanctions, doubling down on export controls, ranging all the way to a nuclear response of our own and everything in between. It would be likely that this president is not looking at the far end of that, sort of looking at a response in kind, but not with nuclear weapons. Hard strikes on Russian facilities inside of Ukraine, most likely.
Hey, definitely never hard strikes on infrastructure on global seas. Like, for example, a pipeline. That would never happen. I just want to point out, America hasn't done that and will certainly not do that, surely.
Has been concerns about sparking a broader war with Russia. For instance, that's why the idea of a no-fly zone was eliminated, because that would be putting NATO warplanes in direct conflict with Russian forces. Would a response like this, I mean, and this has to be part of the calculation, right? I mean, there's a risk of sparking a broader war, is there not?
Brother, if they launch nukes, it's over. What do you mean no-fly zone? It's more like all nuke zone. This stream, if nukes are used, 350K viewers, yeah, I mean, we'll have a banger end to the world, you know what I mean? We'll watch it. That's how it works. There's no world in which it's like, oh, we're going to do a baby nuke, and then you guys will do like a little bit larger of a baby nuke, and then it'll be fine. It's like one nuke is all nukes. Dua Lipa said it best. One nuke is all it takes. Falling in love with me. Possibility. That's what that was about.
He started off as an autocrat, became a dictator, and now he's a madman. He may be a madman, but I don't think he's suicidal. I don't believe that he wants to be the leader of Russia.
Brother, I said that too. Let me tell you something. People love bringing that up still.
Because if you look at it from classic military analysis, the Russians should be doing far, far better. A quantitative assessment says that the Russians have the advantage. But it's the intangibles that we're seeing on the battlefield, the morale of the Ukrainians, the equipment they have, the leadership that they have versus
the brain rot.
Oh man, it's literally the weapons, dog. That's it. It's the weapons. They have a fucking endless funnel. There's enough people who honestly and legitimately and earnestly want to defend their country. So there's that. And that is gonna happen when you get invaded. And weapons. Have you considered that Ukrainians got that dog in them? Brother, no matter what happens, when you're fucking backed into a corner, you gotta have that dog in you. You know what I mean? That's what it is for them. It's life or death. That's why they got that dog in them.
I was worried.
The invading force has logistical hurdles to overcome that they're having a hard time overcoming. And the defending force has an incredible amount of help that it's getting from the international community.
It's also not entirely clear how much using a tactical weapon would help him on the battlefield, except to try to freeze things, to basically say to the Ukrainians, if you make one more move toward throwing us out of the Donbass or these other areas, just know that I can take out your entire country and turn it all into wasteland. But the consequences for Putin would be high. He may also think that over time, other countries have broken taboos and gotten away with it. You notice it in the speech. The first thing that one
broken
last week,
taboos.
First thing he said was, there was Hiroshima, there was Nagasaki, and you set a precedent when you did.
Homie's talking about nuking civilian populations. He said broken taboos, bro. This is why, like, I always say America and Russia, or American imperialist leadership and Russian irredentist actions are like this, okay? It's like this. Because like they're talking about they're talking the same game. The only difference is like obviously America is the global superpower, so it doesn't matter. They can do whatever the fuck they want.
You know, the oddity of all of this, Brianna, is that nuclear weapons are one of those things that are much more powerful in the perspective, in the threat that you might use it, than they are when you actually go off to use it. And this is not like the old Cold War days where the concern was they would lob a nuclear weapon at the United States, and in return for New York, you take out Moscow or whatever. In this case, he's talking about using a small weapon that would be used on presumably a military base, maybe a low populated area.
Whatever, dude. You know, back in the day, that was the stakes. You know, we would just talk about stuff like that. Now we're just talking about like baby nukes. Just a little nukey poo. The threat of nukes is the main usage of nuclear power. That's all he said, and your dumb chat is confused. No matter what happens, it's still pretty bad.
The Ukrainian army made another substantial gain over the weekend. It retook the eastern city of Lyman just hours after Russia illegally claimed it as part of its sham referenda.
They're about to be like, damn, dude, Ukrainian forces are actually advancing on Russian territory. This one brilliant tactic makes it so that now Ukrainian forces are actually inside of Russian borders now, because that's Russian territory now.
A ghostly silence here, apart from occasional shelling and small arms fire. And it is, for so much of this town, utterly destroyed. So many locals, we're told, leaving when the Ukrainian push towards it began. But now it's just this utter ghostliness in a place that's such a strategic defeat for Russia.
Outside what's left of the court, the constant change and violence is too much for some. Her husband, just arrested.
Понимаете, сказать вам правду. Шапку снимаешь, шапку одеваешь. Шапку снимаешь, шапку одеваешь. Что это за жизнь? 72 года, 73-й год. Я не могу спокойно, как крыса в подвале. С подвала вылазить.
Сказать,
а что ж это такое?
Только вы же это не покажете, понимаете? Вы это не покажете. Вчера Украина зашла, проверила документы на
забрала мужчину, пропал мужчина. Мужчина пропал, вот это здорово дело. Шапки снимают.
А люди страдают, блин. Одни бьют, другие бьют. А мы плачем.
It was not pro-Russian sympathizers, were they? No, man. People are fucking sick and tired. They don't want the Ukrainian government to come in and be like, all right, you might be a pro-Russian sympathizer. You're going to jail. They don't want the Ukrainian government to be like, hey, we're forcing you to fucking go to war. They certainly don't want the Russian government to come in and be like, hey, you know, you're Ukrainian. We're going to fuck with you. We're going to jail you. It's just That's the reality of war. The real working class people, the regular working class people get fucked over. They either get forced into conscription, they get forced into service, or they get killed. There's no good side in this circumstance. I mean, there is. Obviously, there is a real and legitimate need for emancipation and to purge the country of invading forces. Obviously, there is a less evil side, less awful side. That is why people constantly talk about ways of ending this conflict. All ways of ending this conflict is through treaties, okay? Ceasefire agreements, treaties, and de-escalation. It's never by adding more guns into the pile and pushing further, whether it be Russia, pummeling and adding more conscripted forces into the fucking fight and trying to galvanize its support internally. And same goes for the Ukrainian side as well. Is not going to happen either with one side overpowering the other, but ultimately still coming to a treaty, coming to the table and negotiating the conditions of surrender. Or it's going to end with just all-out nuclear warfare. Start using a nuke. Use a nuke. Please start using nukes. Nuclear missiles are an investment and an investment only. You will be victorious. You will win. You will do all of that. You understand? You will become a hegemonic power again and rebuild your fucking empire.